When it comes to greatness in the UFC, Jon Jones is at the top of the mountain. He's beaten legends, broken records, and dominated the sport like few ever have. But along the way, he also made his fair share of enemies, whether it was through intense rivalries, trash talk, or simply being too dominant.
I challenge you to get me down 5 times in that 5-round fight. But the difference is, when I get you down, your face will open up.
Still, despite all the battles and drama, there are a few fighters Jon genuinely respects. Fighters he looks up to. Fighters he's even called his favorites. So who makes the cut? Who are the rare few that Jon Jones calls his favorite fighters? You might be surprised by some of the names. Starting off, we have Anderson Silva. Jon Jones has always looked up to Anderson Silva. From the time he was a teenager, Silva was his idol. Jones didn't just enjoy watching him fight, he studied him. Jon once tweeted that he spent over 100 hours watching Anderson's fights. He paid close attention to his techniques, his movement, and the way he controlled the octagon. For Jones, Silva wasn't just a champion, he was a master, and he learnt a lot from Silva.
He's a real Jedi. He's a real Jedi. Everything about him was just a learning experience.
Over the years, Jones has made it very clear how much respect he has for Silva. He once tweeted, "I'm going to tell my kids Anderson Silva was the greatest middleweight of all time," and then added, "They already know." That says a lot. Even when Jones became a champion himself and was called one of the greatest, he still gave that title to Silva when it came to the middleweight division. But the respect between them wasn't just from a distance. Anderson Silva once reached out to Jones before one of the biggest fights of his life, his rematch with Daniel Cormier. Here was what Jon Jones said about the call.
You got a call from Anderson Silva. I was just curious, what Anderson said and then what it meant to you.
Me and Anderson, we talked on the phone for a while, and I really don't want to get too much into what we spoke about, just out of my respect for him. But when it comes to the fight, basically he just told me to know what I'm capable of. He just said, basically in a roundabout way, he just said, know what you're capable of. And he said it was almost surprising to feel the level of fear I felt from Daniel. He said to me, I'm an old man now, and Daniel had to take me down round after round because I felt fear coming off of him. This man has fear in his heart. He said, know what you're capable of, go out there and you take this from him. In a roundabout way, that's what he said.
That moment meant a lot to Jones. He said hearing that from Silva made him feel powerful and reminded him of what he was capable of. It wasn't just advice, it was support from someone he'd looked up to for years. Even when Silva was older and not at his best, Jones still defended him. After one of Silva's later fights, Jones said he saw many glimpses of greatness in his performance. He said Silva definitely still has it. That kind of praise shows that Jones didn't just admire Silva when he was winning. It was deeper than that. He respected who Silva was as a fighter, no matter the result. At one point, people talked about the possibility of a fight between Jon Jones and Anderson Silva, but Jones shut that idea down.
He's kind of like my idol, and fighting your idol, it's not a thrill for me. I don't want to beat Anderson Silva. I don't want to lose to Anderson Silva. It's a lose-lose situation, in my opinion.
In other words, he didn't want to be the one to hurt his idol, and he didn't want to take the chance of being beaten by him either. He believed it was a fight neither of them needed. That's not something you say about just anyone. That's something you say about someone you truly admire. And Anderson Silva is also full of respect for the American fighter.
Me and my man Anderson just had a phenomenal workout here at the UFC gym.
Yeah. Where's your call?
Hey.
Me and the best fighters in the world.
Hey, listen, Anderson.
Jon Jones Bones.
Yeah, right. Hey.
Fucking crazy guy.
So it's clear, Jon Jones doesn't just think Anderson Silva is great, he sees him as one of the most important fighters to ever step into the octagon. He's studied him, learned from him, been supported by him, and honored to be mentioned in the same breath as him. Next, we have Georges St-Pierre. Jon Jones has a lot of respect and admiration for Georges St-Pierre. To him, GSP isn't just a UFC legend. He's someone Jones has looked up to and even been inspired by. One of the clearest signs of this came when St-Pierre made his big return to the UFC in 2017. After being away from the sport for 4 years, GSP stepped back into the octagon and shocked the world by winning the middleweight title. On the night of that fight, Jon Jones went on Twitter and said, "Hey, Georges St-Pierre, you've always been one of my biggest inspirations. Show the world how great you can be tonight, praying for you." But it's not just about what GSP did in the cage, it's also about how smart he is. Jones once saw a video of GSP explaining footwork and distance control in MMA. Here is the video.
You often hear the fight starts when the bell rings, which is completely false. The fight starts when I decided to start. If my opponent comes in and I don't want to exchange, I just move away and control the distance. I don't want to jump in there when he comes in blindly and exchange and trade with him. I only want to exchange on my terms. Don't make the fight a coin toss.
Jones then replied with a comment that said, "One of the best MMA minds in the history of the game." Jones didn't just admire GSP's physical skills, he appreciated his brain, his strategy, and the way he broke things down. In a sport where power and toughness often get all the attention, Jones saw GSP's intelligence as one of his greatest strengths. There was even a time they both hung out at a Super Bowl party about 11 years ago.
George, how you doing, man? Hey! This is crazy.
Let's go.
And according to Jon, they had the time of their lives that night.
But we're pulling up to a club and someone's asking, are you here to party with Georges St-Pierre? I had, something like, were they interviewing George and they were asking?
They were talking to you.
Were they talking to me? Yeah, it's been years. But yeah, I really didn't know George was right there. And when I did see him, I was so happy to see him, and we had a crazy night that night. Yeah, we got pretty wild that night. I did. George was being George, but I got a little crazy.
The respect also goes both ways. Georges St-Pierre has often praised Jon Jones too. In an interview, GSP said that it's hard to find someone better than Jones. He called him extremely talented, said he's very smart, and talked about how tough he is, mentioning fights where Jones kept going even with a dislocated arm or a broken toe.
Jon Jones is extremely talented, but he's also extremely tough. People have no idea how tough he is, man. I've trained with him. I've seen him like going through the grind. He's so freaking tough. I remember fights that he had, like I think with Victor Belfort, his arm got dislocated, and he fought even with a dislocated arm. Even one of his fights, his toes was broken. Most of the time when you have a guy that is very talented, it doesn't come with toughness. Jon Jones is the full package.
MMA Uncensored Plus shared St-Pierre's comments on their Instagram handle, catching Jones's attention. The reigning heavyweight champion reshared the post, gracefully accepting the praise with a simple two-word reaction, writing an honor. Those two words said everything. It showed how much it meant to Jones to hear that kind of praise from someone he truly respects. At the end of the day, Jon Jones doesn't just like Georges St-Pierre because he's a former champion. He likes him because GSP represents everything that's great about MMA. He was smart, respectful, hardworking, and always improving. And even after years at the top, GSP stayed humble. That's the kind of the legacy Jones admires. Another fighter Jones admires is Jose Aldo. Jon Jones really admires Jose Aldo, and it's easy to see why when you understand how much respect he has for everything Aldo has done in the sport. Back in 2015, when Jose Aldo lost to Conor McGregor in just 13 seconds, the whole world was talking. Many people quickly moved on, but not Jon Jones. He jumped on Twitter right after the fight and defended Aldo. He said that Aldo absolutely deserved an immediate rematch, especially after holding the UFC title for over 10 years without ever really losing. Jones pointed out that Ronda Rousey was offered a rematch right away after losing, so why not Aldo? That message showed something important. Jones didn't just see Aldo as a fighter, he saw him as a champion who earned respect through years of hard work. But it didn't stop there. In interviews, Jones has named Jose Aldo as one of his top 5 favorite fighters of all time.
What's your top 5 of all time in UFC?
My top 5, let's see here. I would say, if I'm allowed, I would say myself, Anderson Silva, Georges St-Pierre, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Jose Aldo. Those are my favorites, at least.
That means Aldo is up there in his mind with legends like Anderson Silva and Georges St-Pierre. For someone like Jones, who many people consider the greatest fighter ever, to say that about Aldo says a lot. He sees him as one of the very best to ever do it. What Jones really loves about Aldo isn't just his winning streak or his championships. He admires the way Aldo carries himself. Aldo never needed trash talk to sell a fight. He didn't chase drama or fake rivalries. He just showed up, fought with skill, and left everything in the cage. Jones respects that. And it goes both ways. Jose Aldo has also shown support for Jon Jones. When Jones was in a contract dispute with the UFC over money and respect, Aldo publicly backed him. He said he understood exactly what Jones was going through, because fighters like them, who've been champions and put everything on the line, deserve to be treated fairly. So when Jon Jones talks about Jose Aldo, he's not just talking about a fighter he watched win titles. He's talking about a man he sees as a warrior, a role model, and someone who stood for what martial arts is really about. And these two clearly respect each other.
Oh man, always one of my favorites. Always my favorite. You're my favorite. Shit, we be each other's favorite. Good to see you.
Moving on to the next Jon Jones's favorite fighters, we have Khabib Nurmagomedov.
What's your top 5 of all time in UFC?
My top 5. Let's see here. I would say, if I'm allowed, I would say myself, Anderson Silva, Georges St-Pierre, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Jose Aldo.
We have spoken about everyone on that list except Khabib Nurmagomedov. Jon Jones has made it very clear over the years that he truly respects and admires Khabib Nurmagomedov, not just as a fighter, but as a person. When Jon Jones praises someone, it means a lot because he doesn't hand out compliments easily. One of the biggest reasons Jones likes Khabib is because of how he carries himself. In an interview with RMCS Sport, Jones said, "I love what Khabib represents." He was talking about more than just winning fights. He meant Khabib's values, his discipline, his faith, and how seriously he takes being a role model. Jones even called Khabib a stand-up guy and an admirable man.
About Khabib in the 4th position, what do you think about his invincibility?
I love what Khabib represents. You know, we've had our differences in the past. I've made some quotes about him, but there's never really been a real beef. You know, I love the way he carries himself as a Muslim. I love the way he represents his country. I love the businessman that he is. He just seems like a stand-up guy. He gives back to others. He's a stand-up guy. He's an admirable man.
He didn't just say he respected Khabib, he said he appreciated his very existence. Even when people tried to create drama between the two, like when they had a small disagreement online about who deserved the GOAT, greatest of all time title, Jones didn't let that change how he felt. In fact, he later said there was no bad blood and that he still respected Khabib deeply. Jones admires how Khabib stayed true to his beliefs. Khabib didn't fight for fame or money. He fought with purpose. And when he promised his mother he would retire after his father died, he kept that promise. Jones sees that kind of loyalty and discipline as something rare and powerful. In fact, Jones has mentioned in the past how much he respects fighters who stay grounded and true to their values. When Jones was asked about who he thought was going to win the bout between Khabib and Conor, he confidently rooted for Khabib, saying he would definitely put his money on him.
Can he beat Khabib?
Can Conor McGregor? Yeah, you know, I typically don't go against wrestlers. If you were asking me as a betting man, wrestlers have the power to dictate where the fight goes, whether it's going to be a standing match or whether he's going to take him to the ground and make it a jiu-jitsu match. I think the cards are always kind of in Khabib's hands, but Conor definitely has a chance. But if I were to put my money in it, I'm definitely going with Khabib.
And there's something else that adds to the respect. Back when Conor McGregor mocked Jones and tried to stir up drama, Khabib defended him. He said Jones was one of the greatest ever and deserved respect. That meant a lot to Jones. He publicly thanked Khabib for standing up for him and showed that the respect between them was mutual.